Hi, this is Monique Hall. I'm back for the second installment of my testimony. I have my husband here, Chris. We're going to try and do our best to recapture what happened after I told him that I was scared. He has coped with everything that's happened in his own way, which for a lot of men, it's been to forget it. So I apologize. We're going to do our best. It's painful memories that we're bringing up. So we'll do our best. Here we go.
All right, so after you said you were scared, um, you seized up and your face kind of contorted, and everybody rushed around you. All the nurses and the doctors said she's in cardiac arrest. They went and they grabbed the defibrillators, and I ushered Grayson out of the room to give them more room in there, and they stripped down your top and started shocking you with the paddles. And they had to do that a number of times to get a pulse, and then your pulse was weak, and then it would stop again, so then they'd have to shock you again. And they did that about 4 times before your pulse remained. Um, During that whole time, they were doing CPR and breathing for you and doing all of that stuff. Grayson and I were obviously rather traumatized and crying from the whole situation. And after they were able to get you back to life, they told me that there was not much of a chance that you were going to pull through, or that you would ever be the same, because your brain had been without oxygen for too long. So they asked me what I wanted to do. They gave me your rings and your jewelry and everything, and I told them, well, she's my wife. Bring her back. Do what you have to do. And then the whole time in my head, I'm thinking, this is just a horrible nightmare.
And you said,
And
"Is this all I have left?"
well, when they handed me your rings, I looked at it, and is this all I have left of my wife? Is just memories and these rings. And I kept thinking about Grayson, having to raise Grayson without his mom, and he was, a young boy, 10 years old, or no, I
He
guess.
was 10.
Yeah. So, actually, he was
He was 10.
11. It was
No,
January
honey,
2020, right?
he was 10. He didn't have his 11th birthday until after I was home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in any event, they brought me paperwork, asked me if I wanted, if, if anything had happened, if I wanted to continue to try and resuscitate and keep her alive, or if I wanted to sign do not resuscitate papers and just let her go. I was like, no, do whatever you have to do. We have insurance. Don't worry about anything. I just want her back. So they wheeled you off, and Grayson and I went into a waiting room. They offered, a pastor and all these other things to us, but we just waited in there, and eventually Grayson was able to fall asleep, which was thankful. But it was like 3 in the morning or something like that, so it was really early. They kept us in there until after 8 o'clock. I think by that point, family members were starting to show up from out of town. And I was constantly trying to get information on what's going on. The doctors would come in and say, okay, she's out of surgery. We had to put 2 splints in. And
Stents.
Sorry, put 2 stents in, cleaned out the plaque in the arteries and everything, and but that you were on a ventilator and you were still in critical condition. They still wouldn't let anybody back there to see you. It took a couple more hours until finally you were stable enough that they allowed me. Well, actually, they decided to allow me back there because if you weren't going to make it, they wanted me to at least be able to say my goodbyes. So they let me go back there to say my goodbyes just in case. And when I got in there, you had tubes down your throat and in your nose, and you had ice packs on you, and you had this fan blowing up through your legs to keep you cold. Your body temperature was purposefully kept very low in order to try and save your brain and keep you from any significant brain damage. And so I just sat in there with you and told you that I loved you and that I was here, and come back, you can do this, don't give in. And then they had me leave, and a few more hours later they let me come back, and I saw you for a while, and sat by your side for a few hours. My family, Mom and Dad and Stephanie, took Grayson to the zoo to try and get his mind off of the situation.
That was after I woke up, though.
Was it? I don't know. So maybe.
I remember when
You were
Mark
out
and Stephanie came in, and your mom was over at the nurse's station. So
Well, they were already here before they even let them come back there.
oh, okay.
They weren't letting anybody except me go back to see you, and I guess that one, they didn't. I kept your mom,
No, she hadn't even know.
I know. I kept your
That's
mom
a whole
out
nother
of the
episode.
thing until you were better off. And eventually you came to, but it was a long journey because they kept saying, she's not reacting to anything. They were shining lights, and I would constantly looking for any sort of encouragement. I'd see like a slight twitch of your hand, and I'd be like, "Hey, see, she moved," and they say, "No, that's muscle spasm or whatever," but it didn't look like a muscle spasm to me. And from what you've told me, you were fighting to get back and trying to do anything you could to let people know you were there. Like you were just trapped in your body and couldn't say anything and couldn't react and couldn't blink and couldn't move your eyes.
That'll be on the next episode.
So that was really tough, but eventually you came to, and we were in the hospital for 4 days before you were finally released to come home.
I spent a full 8 days, baby.
Was it 8?
Yes.
Maybe it was
See,
4
I told
days.
you he was trying not to remember.
I know it was 4 days in the emergency room there in the critical care, and that's what I remember. Then they moved you into the other room, and I guess you were there for observation and whatnot for 4 days.
I don't know about observation,
Or
but
3 days, I don't know.
no,
But it was a while.
I just was not required to be in the ICU anymore. I was strong enough to be moved to the heart ward.
What was scary
the
about this is
Heart ward.
this was in January 23rd or something like that,
22nd.
22nd of 2020, and they weren't letting people into the critical care, the ICU, because there were a number of people who were sick with the mysterious respiratory issue, and people were really sick. Well, come to find out later, that's the early stages, the early time of COVID. So we were, I don't want to say lucky, but we got in before the COVID thing hit,
Mm-hmm.
or there may not have been any beds available. But that's it for now.
Thanks, everybody. Next episode, I'll be talking about what I experienced from my perspective, from what Chris talked about, and all of the details from that point on. So thank you very much for watching, and I really do hope that us telling about this experience will help other families or individuals that have gone through a similar experience cope with it a little bit better. Thank you. Bye-bye.